It's the great Australian dream.
Oh yes, they may have to wait, but their turn will come. They'll know the thrill of a home of their own, for that is their birthright.
Birthright? Sure, if you're a boomer.
TikTok.
Okay, boomer.
Right now, it's the property market that's booming. I'm talking red hot. In March alone, property values shot up at the fastest rate in 32 years. And check out these median house prices. Perth's past the $500,000 mark. Melbourne's up 60 grand since the start of the year. And sorry, Sydney, an increase of 100 grand means your median is now more than 1.1 mil. In Sydney and Hobart, a whopping 40% of first home buyers have been priced out of the housing market. And that was before this cray-cray surge.
It started to increase last year, primarily because we had a lot of incentives in the market. So the government was, very happy to give us all money for either for JobStarter, JobKeeper, but especially for the Home Build Grant.
Whoa! Not to mention all the people with mass property FOMO deep diving into debt so they don't miss out.
The statistics are around 3 times savings is what we've achieved during COVID. So because people have cash, they haven't been able to spend their money, it looks really good on paper for the banks. So the banks are lending them money.
But it turns out we're not alone in this. Our friends over the ditch have had a piping hot property market for yonks.
The last thing our economy and homeowners needs right now is a dangerous housing bubble. But a number of indicators point towards that risk.
So now Jacinda Ardern's changing loan conditions and scrapping a scheme that allows property investors to claim a tax deduction on mortgage interest against their rental income, aka
Abolish negative gearing.
Yep, the thing that basically lost Bill Shorten and Labor the last election could be the one thing that solves New Zealand's housing crisis.
Taste of democracy, very good.
Yeah, probably not on the cards for us. So how do we cool things down?
Well, Shane Wright is here to hopefully solve Australia's property crisis. Shane, if our government's not going to go for getting rid of negative gearing, will the only thing that's going to actually slow this market down be if interest rates go north and it then becomes a painful slowdown?
Oh, if interest rates went up, you could hear the wailing from like the people who went through it in 1990 when you had interest rates at an 18.5%. And this is a real issue because the RBA knows so much extra debt has been taken on. We've got the most heavily indebted households in the developed world. And if the bank gets to a point where it needs to increase interest rates, it's really going to hurt. Everyone who's taken out a mortgage since 2010 has not seen an interest rate rise. Millions of people who are going to wake up to reality with a big flat smash across their face.
What about for first home buyers? Because home ownership seems like such a distant dream away, particularly for young people. And I feel like sometimes the only advice that anyone seems to give first home buyers is, just get in there, just get into the market. But doesn't that mean taking on more debt?
The average mortgage taken on by someone a first home buyer in New South Wales or Victoria over the last 12 months has gone up about $60,000 at a time of record low wages growth. So, encourage people to take on more debt, which is going to weigh on their spending patterns for the next 20 to 30 years. We've dug ourselves into, this is a sub-basement level problem where the housing prices are vital to the economy, and to deal with anything to make it palatable for future generations is just beyond the pale.
Look, Shane, are you saying that the market is too hot for people to get in now, or do you think there's a chance that it's just going to keep getting worse?
There are some people who think one of the drivers of what we've seen over the last 20 years in terms of prices and population growth, that's going to come off because we've shut ourselves off. Fertility rates are dropping rather quickly because people aren't in the mood to have more babies. So that one issue should take some heat. But we come back to the fact you've got governments throwing money at first home buyers. You've got record low interest rates, which are going to be around for 2-3 years. And we've got a tax system that rewards you for going into property rather than, say, investing in a new startup company.
So if you could do one thing to slow the market down, what would it be?
I think right at the moment it would be getting APRA, the banking regulator, to tighten some of the lending regulations. And then ultimately there has to be something done around the tax system, and say the capital gains tax concession, that desperately needs reform, because what it was built to do, encourage people to invest in new businesses, has clearly failed. It's been used to push up house prices. So there's the two things I'd look at straight away.
All right. Shane, thanks so much for your insight.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a young person, I suppose, a millennial, and I've been trying to sort of get into the housing market. And so I've just been very firmly like, yes, we need to abolish negative gearing. But then a couple of years back, my partner and I bought an apartment, and now all of a sudden I'm like, hang on, let's just slow down a bit here. Let's rethink the abolishment of that.
I wonder if we're ever going to go back to it. In the last 35 years, there's been two cracks at it, once in government under Hawke, and then they reversed doing so with the backlash. And then, of course, Bill Shorten said he would, as we saw there, and decided to lose the election in part because of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't think the political will's there. So you're safe, Jan Friend.
Well, yeah, I'm safe, but maybe the generation that comes after me, they're the ones I worry about.
Yeah.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.